By the time he was 26 years old, Ronald True had gone from humble, broken beginnings to attending one of the most prestigious schools in the world. He had traveled to the far reaches of the earth, working as a farmer in New Zealand, an officer, the Canadian Mounted Police, and a drug researcher in Shanghai. He'd become heir to a baron's fortune, yet didn't hesitate to step up and make history. When war broke out and Britain called for aid, he enlisted, becoming one of the first pilots of the Royal Air Corps, where he quickly set multiple records before taking his leave and landing a government contract as a test pilot in the private sector. Yes, it was 1917, and Ronald was undoubtedly writing and rewriting his resume as he made his way via steamboat from England to New York. I didn't see you there.
It all started early this morning.
From hunting ghosts to Bigfoot, UFOs, cryptids, true crime, paranormal, and more.
I've always wanted to see a UFO.
Oh, I was researching for your entertainment.
That's Bigfoot's guy.
He basically wrote the book on modern cult.
We aren't really comedians.
What if Buddha did cocaine?
The Addams Family on meth. This is the Black Cat Report.
See you on the other side.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 121, Ronald True, a part 2. My name is Gail, and joining me today, the man, the myth, the illegal riff, the Charles to my Manson, the DC to my AC, the whole wheat bread to my peanut butter, the tears to my squonk, Joey Lee.
Thank you so much. I kind of feel like Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones when they read this huge, long list of things that really don't make you that great of a leader. But I appreciate all the intros. The longer the name, the worse the person. That's what I go by.
It's true. It's Ronald True. But before we get into the madness and murder, we gotta do a brief little bit of housekeeping first. It's gonna be short. First off, apologies for the delay. While, to be honest, news of one particular Cheeto did kind of leave me feeling a little bit more scatterbrained than usual, oddly enough, it was also partially due to jury duty for a murder trial, something Joey has been unable to talk about for a few weeks now, but I'm sure he will be enlightening us in quippets here and there as future episodes progress. Maybe, potentially, even in this episode, which is about a murder.
I learned a lot, and honestly, I won't be talking about the specifics of the trial, but I will definitely be using the knowledge I've gained on how trials run, how they're handled, and things like that, just to make it easier on us, or if we need a little nudge over there on why something happens, just got the inside track. I got the podcaster's version of the trial, which I was very happy about. I also did get really, really sick, so I apologize again. I think I said it in the Cup of Joey, if you listened, that I got really, really sick for a week, so I'm feeling better, and excuse me, pardon me, you might not hear it. You might hear me coughing every once in a while, but I'm on the up and up now, so I'm all good.
You literally got so sick that 2 weeks into jury duty, they forced you to leave, basically.
Yeah, they did, when I've done 99% of the trial.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Now, throwing this out there, just a quick little fashion tip. If you're having trouble trying to accessorize a large, curly white wig, you can find a link to The Trial of Ronald True by Donald Carswell down in our show notes, along with all of the resources that we bring up in this episode and subsequent episodes. They're all right down there, all the links. And we're doing Patreon shoutouts a little bit different this week. We're going to be having to put them at the end. Next week, there's something very special that I'm planning on doing with those shoutouts. So just, Joey, plan for that. Plan for that somehow. I'm not going to tell you, but plan for it.
I'm planned.
There is an exception, actually. 2 exceptions. 2 very badass patrons, Jaden and Ian. We got to say, thank you both for reaching out and getting our eyes on the fascinating true crime anomaly that is Ronald True. Excellent suggestion.
Thank you.
With all that said, when we last left off with Ronald True, we covered how he brought his unstoppable incompetence to the doorstep of the world, how he abused and hurt small animals, and how he rode shotgun in a car that was taking him to the top no matter what he did or didn't do. In fact, to understand the story of Ronald True, I would insist you need to understand the story around Ronald True, which has less to do with Ronald and more to do with what's true. But with that having been covered in part 1 and that preparatory disclaimer read to you an episode late this week, we can finally dig into the mind of a madman as addiction takes him, insanity matures, and murder begins to guide his hands. After landing in New York, Ronald quickly took on all the merit he'd never earned, but not before donning the names of his stepfathers, as he impersonated both of them during his first few months in the U.S., during which time he operated as more or less a con man, traveling from state to state in what would be an early trial run for his later criminal insanity. It was during this time that writing bad checks and money orders became a hobby he enthusiastically indulged in, along with potentially getting married and divorced twice within just 5 months. And he did all that while still somehow finding a way to serve a brief sentence in jail for forging money orders. Now, maybe it was the time he had to reflect on life, or the fact that he finally had to face consequences for his actions. It's hard to say, but when Ronald True arrived back to New York after being released, he was a changed man. He was a new man. He was now Major True, a brave and battered hero of British aviation whose injuries and obvious limp were earned not through repeatedly crashing his plane every single time he had a chance to do a solo flight, or who, during his time in the military, never made it out of England or saw a single day of battle. No. But as an unfortunate result of his incredible skills pushed to their breaking point, not by the enemy, but by his own valor as he faced overwhelming odds day in and day out in dogfight after dogfight, doing everything he could to save the boys on the ground from dying in the trenches. In other words, Major True was the exact opposite of Ronald True. It was between the late summer, early fall 1917 when Major True returned to New York, and his timing couldn't have been better. See, the U.S. had just entered World War I only a few months earlier. Troops were being shipped off daily, and excitement was high. Again, it had only been a few months since the U.S. started sending over troops. Transportation, pretty fucking slowly back in the day. Everything was by ship. And a few, if any, American veterans had returned back yet from the front, dead or alive. Basically, the streets were empty. People were being shipped off. All the young men were going over there, and even news coming back was fairly slow and pretty much just all over the place. Shit was really new. This means that Major True was one of the only veterans people had to talk to and hear stories from the war. True had finally found his calling in life. It was the perfect place and the perfect time to be an overly entitled bumblebutt with an ego that only his growing delusions could rival. That all said, if Ronald ever had one true skill, one Ronald True talent, it was his ability to quickly ingratiate himself with strangers, to temporarily convince people that his ego was charisma and that his eccentricities were just part of his charm. As one might suspect, skill and a new persona married perfectly in this situation. Major True quickly became the highlight of every party he attended, which, along with everyone's desire to support the troops, made it so he quickly rose up through the social circles and was soon mixing it up with celebrities, debutantes, politicians, and last but not least, aspiring actors, which leads us to the moment he met his future wife, Frances Roberts, 17-year-old aspiring actress said to be as knockout of a talent as she was with her beauty. That trickster fate tied their futures together, a cocktail party one late summer evening.
Oh, hey there. Haven't seen you around here before. You come by often?
This is my apartment.
Oh, yeah? Fascinating. So, heard you were an actor. It's cool. You know, I was in theater once. Theater of War. You probably don't want to hear about it, but I just got over here from England.
And as the guests gathered around, hanging on every fallacy True boldly composed in front of them, Francis fell harder than any plane Ronald ever aborted in the sky.
Anyways, if you'll excuse me, I'm actually running late. I'm actually a participant in a highly important medical experiment. Gentlemen, stay hard, stay true. Ladies, stay wet. Or tea out.
His famous catchphrase.
Well, his charm and tales of courage worked like magic, and November 5th of that same year, Francis Roberts became Francis True, a decision the long arc of time would cruelly make her come to regret. But before that lesson even began, the later weeks of that same November would continue to bear fruit for Major True, as he was soon able to convince the United States War Department to hire him as a flight instructor.
Yeah, he's gonna crash more planes
Yeah.
with more people in it. He's got the booster seats.
Don't worry about me, I don't need a hat.
I won't need any chrome boots either.
And while normally this would spell out a situation where True gets in, crashes immediately, and is fired all within the course of a month, possibly resulting in everyone around the area seeing he's full of shit, timing in this exact moment was on his side. Teaching first in Mineola, New York, Major True somehow managed to avoid gravity long enough for the government to keep him as an instructor when they transferred the whole school down to Houston, Texas. He got hired just before the whole operation was put into boxes and moved, which gonna assume is probably why he lasted so long.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was still pursuing this new opportunity. This is a big deal for Major True, right? And he followed this job. It went south, while unfortunately, Frances, she had to stay behind. She was working in New York in the theater. Yeah. She was under contract. So after basically a month and a half of being married, already in two opposite ends of the country.
Probably good for her, though. Probably better for her in the long run.
Yes.
I can only imagine they're just like, hey, you know, they're packing out the boxes like, we're going to Houston. He's like, all right, Ronald True, take this big plane that we just created and fly all of our stuff down there.
It's just like sweating profusely.
That one? That one? Oh,
the new big plane. Yes, the big plane over there.
I'm allergic to planes that are that size.
It's
like a weird allergy. I have a doctor's note somewhere if you want to go look for it.
That's the morphine note.
I think I left it in my hat. Have you seen that anywhere?
It must have flown off during your test flight.
So sorry, I'm actually running late for a medical experiment.
He's always leaving for those medical experiments. He must be a really important person in science.
Well, months would pass before the operation in Houston was, fully up and running, with groups of new recruits getting assigned instructors. And more hours clocked for being trained by an instructor than any other man, Ronald True was ready to teach the next generation of American aviators. School started, and imposter syndrome never stood a chance against this man's unbridled ego.
Go look a lot, gentlemen. Class is in session. Listen up. I know some say Yankees don't know how to fight unless it's behind a tree or involving tea in a harbor at night, but you're in luck. That's why I'm here. The name's True. Major True, and you're about to be blessed with my knowledge thanks to a royal decree. You see, when the Queen heard the colonies were joining the effort, she sent me over immediately. Said I'm truly one of the only people capable of turning you fly boys into fly men. Now, first rule of flying, take off your hat. Slows down your thinking, it makes it hard to land. Second rule, those little wings you got there, too small. Gonna need to be at least 3 times that size. See mine? Custom. Third rule, and don't forget this one. That's a trash can, and that's an airplane. Common mistake, but don't worry. By the time I'm done training you, you'll know down from over and the best toppings to order on Taco Tuesdays in the medical ward.
When I'm done with you, you won't even be able to tell the difference between a trash can or a plane.
What? It's the Chris Farley where new guys in the back puking his guts out.
Yeah. I love that.
I think that was from Tommy Boy. Well, sadly though, for Major True's career ambitions, they went the way of Icarus, flying too close to the sun when he immediately wrecked a plane and was fired.
So his first flight, he immediately wrecked a plane. His first training flight.
No, you don't understand. I was trying to invent the ground plane. Yes, the Germans will never see it coming. We'll take the ground.
The car. I was showing them what not to do.
They'll think that it's a plane, but we'll get them from the ground. Trust me, it works. Just like, dude, so many things. That little moment in time in New York was so critical to so many things that come down the line here. But like, fuck, this couldn't have been a better moment from him. Because like, he'd been fucking up at everything his entire life. Being a socialite was not necessarily something he was known for before this. But like, dude, this time and this place and the amount of leeway or give people would have for him when he stepped up and was probably like literally the only guy on the block when it came to being a veteran. This dude's whole life is just falling forward, right?
No matter how many times he jumps out of the car of success, it keeps pulling him right back in and keeps driving.
No matter how many times his plane literally crashes, he somehow survives. I don't know. He's crashed 4 planes.
And these are not planes that are well safetied planes. These are open air planes that don't have cockpits for the most part because they weren't invented yet.
You know how many people died before the Wright brothers trying to fly?
Literally.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone that ever tried to fly a plane. Yeah. Like the Wright brothers are so lucky that like Orville was just like, hey, maybe we need to wait another minute for the glue to dry on the balsa wood. And then he's like, I don't know. I think we can go now. He's like, I don't know. I checked the humidity. And he's like, okay, let's get drinks. Because like they would have fucked up and we would still be, I don't know, all riding ground planes or something.
Instead of Orville and Orville Wright and the Wright brothers, it would have been like Boom Chicka Pow popcorn joke, Redenbacher.
Way off track, but honestly, that's on theme for Ronald True. Now, after a brief stay in the hospital, he was released into Texas with a ruined reputation and a pocket full of cash.
My dearest Francis, I know this time away from me must be hard for you, but hold your faith. I'm writing to inform you that, unfortunately, I've been reassigned by the king on a special mission, meaning sadly your heart must ache a little longer. Well, I can't disclose much. What I can tell you is, I've successfully infiltrated the U.S. Army's medical ward and might have discovered the potential origins of Taco Tuesday. Stay wet, stay true. RT out. Oh yeah, P.S. How's acting and stuff?
I don't care.
RT out.
Whatever you're doing, I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's not as cool as
He went to
Taco
Mexico.
Tuesday.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was a good guess. That was a good hint there. I mean, look, where else do you go when you fail in America? I mean, as I was thinking earlier and talking about earlier, there is no other country in the world that appreciates and rewards con artists more than the United States. So,
Well, and while I suspect his time there was just as much of a blur for him as it is for us looking for records of what he did, what we do know is that after literally, and this says it in this book, wandering around for a while, he got sick with a lung issue, specifically it's a lung complaint. He then decided to wander over to Cuba for just a little bit before he finally made his way back up to New York, reconnected with Francis in June 1918. He left around December, got back in June, was basically there for a few weeks or like a month. He just wandered around Mexico for like 6 months, more or less, 5 or 6 months.
Yeah.
Mexico and
with
Cuba.
a wife, with a new wife that's like, cool, thank you. I'm just waiting for you.
Sure enough, shortly after his return, the newlyweds left America and made their way to Ronald's mom's house in England. And just as that tradition, so was it to the tradition with the way she reacted. His mom quickly set him up with a career and shipped them both off to another continent.
As per usual.
As per usual. Well, this time, it was to West Africa, in what is now called Ghana, where he was able to become an assistant manager for the Takwa Mining Company.
With knowing nothing about mining.
Hey, everybody, I'm here. What do we do? You just want me to tell people what to do? What do I tell them what to do? They should already know. Can I just say that? I can just say that? Do I have to just say that? I don't feel like it.
Yeah, he literally got into middle management again. So he's in the position where he doesn't get to tell anybody. He doesn't get to make big decisions. They're like, this is exactly what he does. They put him into places where he doesn't get to make big decisions and still has somebody over top of him. And they to be like, hey, this is like a mining company. This is kind of what we do. And then he's just like, well, he's a middle manager now. That's what I feel like he's gotten thrown into, because nobody thinks that he can make the best decisions except for the United States. And we thought he would be the best instructor as a test pilot, instructor for pilots.
He worked hard for that con. I'll give him that.
He did crash many planes. Yeah, he really crashed many planes for that con.
No, but keep in mind, this was 1918 in West Africa.
Mm-hmm.
He was British, working as an assistant manager for a British company.
Mm-hmm.
This was some apartheid shit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You're about to hear here in a second, like, how the court records and how the people, that come up later in the case and shit like that, they skirt some phrases that are a little bit too short these days, if you're asking me, right?
That's true.
Well, while there were a few things that happened that we'll catch up to True later in the story, most notably the fact that everyone, and I literally mean everyone, who came into contact with True considered him stark fucking mad. The amount of times I read the word eccentric, right? Like, just...
Yeah.
And spoiler, he gets fired from this on the grounds that he's too eccentric, but we'll get to that in a moment. Now, this case, Ronald True's case, was recorded in the early 1900s, so I'm not going to say a lot of the testimony given by British management in this case about his, quote, behavior with the natives, end quote, but to summarize both the locals and the colonizers' accounts, he was messed up in the head, never wore a hat, and was too eccentric. That all said, I will quote, and this is a direct quote in the book, an account, Ronald True, as he gave a speech to the mine workers after receiving the news he'd been fired. Quote, he assured the people at Takwa they would soon see him again, as he intended to form a transport company for the Gold Coast trade. His return to the Gold Coast would be by aeroplane via France and the Mediterranean and the Sahara. When it was objected to that this was a bad route for petrol supplies, True did not agree. There were many places, he said, where oil and petrol could be had, but he omitted to give particulars. End quote. Translated to Ronald True, and for folks that haven't been reading a bunch of old British writing the whole fucking time, he said,
Fear not, my friends. I've already worked out a plan to start a new company, a better one. Instead of going that weird loop-de-loop way Takwa takes, I'm going to fly straight through France, the Mediterranean, and the Sahara. It'll save both time and money, meaning I'll have more than enough to hire all of you.
At which point somebody in the crowd yelled,
There's nowhere to refuel! No, there's a bunch of spots. Where? The what? Where? Anyways, fellas, stay hard, stay true. RT out, but not for long.
Mm-hmm. Stay hydrated. And this is the other one he was trying to say. Stay fueled.
That long British fucking rant, though, like, they were literally just, people literally, he's like, everybody don't worry, I'll be back. And everybody's like, what the fuck?
Don't come back. Yeah, please don't come back.
I will say a good handful of the complaints at the time was that he was fraternizing and hanging out with the natives in there. He just basically didn't treat them like shit. At least, he didn't see himself as being above. It's like the first time I've ever seen him be humble, which is like, wow, cool. I guess there's some redeeming things somewhere. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, he was just like, oh, hey, you're cool. How are you doing? And just like, didn't give a fuck that they were black.
Yeah.
And he was totally, which also kind of makes sense in the sense that, like, he traveled so fucking much around the world before this moment in time. Like, so much of the early part of his life was just traveling, including that long period of time before he popped up in Shanghai where we don't know where the fuck he went. So he might have kind of like overcome that deep-seated British imperial racism of the time pretty fucking early and just be like, I don't know, I just realized, like, we're all kind of the fucking same. I mean, you're all a little bit not as cool as me, so, like, what's the big deal? Why are you guys fighting?
Yeah,
like,
I would say that he probably didn't see them as lesser beings for different race. He just saw them as lesser beings because they're not him.
Yeah.
So everybody was underneath him.
Yeah.
Even the English people were below him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's like,
Look, guys, they treat you all like shit. I know. I just got fired. I'm there with you. Here's the deal. Taking over the company. Just give me like a couple of weeks. I'll be back.
no, but it was just, point is, this was clearly like batshit loony, right?
Yeah, very much.
And this moment, it's a pretty big deal. This moment when he got fired marks two major turning points for True and those around him. First, Ronald was no longer just egotistical, a liar, and a nuisance, but was now visibly starting to flirt with insanity. And second, he was now a daddy. Francis gave birth to a little baby boy named Ronald F. True.
F is for fucking.
Because that's what I'd be doing.
I do want to have a video, like a very short clip of me like holding like a bundled baby, and it's like the F is for fucking coochie coochie coo, and then it like camera goes over and it's just like data and a blanket.
Yes, that's the perfect thing. That would be perfect.
Damn, it just sounds like some douchey shit he would say.
The only one more fucking true than me. That's your middle name. We'll tell your mom it's for Francis.
I guess his kid's a junior and he's a senior now.
It's true. It's Ronald fucking True.
Wait, actually, his name's Angus. His real name's Angus. So Angus Ronald True.
Yeah, you're right. How did you remember that? I forgot it.
Angus Young, because of the joke I made from AC/DC. That's how I remembered his. That's the only reason I remember his name is because the guitarist from AC/DC.
I don't even know what's true anymore. Well, guess what? On the family's return to England, it was clear that Ronald's mind was deteriorating rapidly, spiraling past the point of him or his family being able to maintain the illusion of him being a capable person with an eccentric, though fragile, stability. And so, as others watched his insanity move forward from nuanced moments to much more obvious, odd behavior, his dirty little secret, his morphine addiction, soon became more openly discussed amongst the members of his close family. Made worse by the treatment he had received for his third plane crash, the timeline of events after Ronald's return was now noting him regularly disappearing from home and embarking on multi-day-long morphine binges. It was becoming a problem, right?
As you would.
Yeah, I mean, they got back from Takwa, his Gold Coast trade company wasn't making it off the ground, not because he couldn't get funding, but because he couldn't turn the plane on. But anyways, a breaking point was soon reached, and Ronald was checked into a nursing home, or more specifically, what we would now refer to today as a rehab. To put it into perspective, just how bad his addiction had become, I did the math regarding how much morphine he was given every day during rehab as they tried to wean him off. It comes out to 3.8 times what the lethal dose would be for somebody with no tolerance. And even at that amount, it still wasn't enough, because during his stay, True was dubbed by all the local people as the Madman, a known quantity to every doctor and chemist in town who was notorious for being aggressive, violent, and completely cuckoo bananas. He was getting out of rehab and beating the fuck up out of pharmacists and forcing doctors to sign. And I mean, this is the shit that comes with severe substance dependency, right? Like this is the kind of shit that I'm not really going to make fun of him or anything like that for those kinds of things, because that's just real. That could happen to anybody. You don't have to be an asshole for that kind of shit to pop off, you know?
Yeah, but he was an asshole. If only he had been sent back to Chicago during the World's Fair to beat up the pharmacist that was eventually became HHMs. Probably would have joined him, honestly.
This fair is incredible. I can barely tell what's real and what's true. Anyways, where the fuck's that pharmacist? I got a prescription I need him to fill.
Gotta beat him up.
What up, HH homie? How you doing today? How's that hotel coming along? Doing good? Doing fine? Fantastic. Hey, gonna need you to fill out some paperwork for me. Don't worry about it. No big deal. Just need your little signature here and I'll be on your way. Hey, what's this slide doing over here? Oh my god, this is the coolest shit I've ever seen. You had an indoor slide put in the house. Where's the leave? Mystery room. Way downstairs? Yeah, I'm gonna go do some sliding after I take the doctor's orders.
I'll meet you downstairs.
RT out.
But this period of time brought with it another important development, or should I say, an important introduction. You see, while staying at rehab, Ronald True was known for betting on horse races, and when wins came in, he was obviously more than delighted with the results. But when the runs didn't work out in his favor, he became furious, not because he had lost, that would be impossible, but because someone else was clearly impersonating him. His evil doppelganger, Ronald True. That's right. Some asshole whose last name was actually spelled Trew was apparently placing fraudulent bets and pretending to be Ronald True. True. Yes, it's confusing. We'll do our best. In the end, this is at least what he told, bookies that came looking to make good on his bets at the time, right?
Yeah, not to break his legs.
Yeah.
It wasn't me, it was True. The other Ronald True.
I wonder, did he also, I don't know if you know this, but did he sign with TREW when he placed the bets? Or did he sign as TRUE?
No. TRUE. But the TREW doppelganger was signing it TRUE. So it came back to him. He's
That's
like,
where
God damn
he got it.
What the fuck? I didn't even bet on that. God damn it, it was True again. It was Ronald True.
And everybody's like, you're Ronald True.
No, not me. True.
And they're like, what?
He's like, no, here, I'll write it out for you. TREW.
And they're like, okay. And
my name is TRUE. How do you not hear the difference?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Like, what out?
For where he's going already, especially with the morphine addiction. I'm sure that, to be fair, is just not helping his cause right now. I think, yeah, he's spiraling. Yeah, he's spiraling down a hole of he had what's freaking crazy is so far, like you were saying earlier, he's had everything gifted to him. We talked about in the first episode, everything's been gifted to him, and he's the true Instagrammer, influencer, and yet he is still going down a hole. And sometimes, as the public, we like to watch, this would be a perfect reality show just to watch his life go down a fucking hole. And then after he crashes and if he doesn't die or doesn't get sent to jail, he'll come out on the other side and he'll go into a reality TV show, and then he'll be famous from that. As a B-list, C-list celebrity. But
I couldn't agree more that it would make a great show, which is why we're doing a show on it Meow.
Exactly.
Shout out to Jaden and Ian. Good find, Ian.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Anyways, Ronald continues to bounce in and out of rehab over the next 2 years, all the while narrowly missing the other Ronald True, who was constantly just running around in the background trying to ruin his life. As time went on, this Ronald True, to emphasize the W, became a homicidal delusion for Ronald. Hunting him down and killing this imposter became a fixation, along with Ronald himself becoming increasingly more violent. Behavior thoroughly documented during one of his last stints in rehab, where the staff had to use 2 male attendants to supervise Ronald 24 hours a day for the last 2 weeks he stayed there. They had to have 2 full-grown... rehab center or like psych ward kind of shit, like those orderlies and attendants are not small folks.
No, there have to be. Yeah.
Big motherfuckers. I actually knew somebody in Tampa. I was friends with somebody who was a psych ward attendant. I would say crazy stories, but that's a bad joke. Anyways, big motherfuckers, and Ronald True getting fucking violent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if did they just not have straitjackets then? They're just like, God damn it, no matter what I do, they won't come out straight. Like, I don't know what the fuck the British were doing back then.
Yeah, I feel like straitjackets were more to protect, in some ways, the individual who was in there, to protect themselves from themselves. And I feel like that they just, at this time, probably just didn't give a fuck about if they were hurting themselves. So
that's true.
Yeah, so they're just probably like, whatever, it's fine. Because straitjacket, I feel like, I never have been in a mental institution myself. I don't know how it feels to be in a straitjacket, but I would imagine that's what it's for. That's what they say. It's to protect themselves from themselves, because he's not in his right mind. He's definitely starting to crack. And how old is he? Is he in his 30s at about this time? Late 20s, early 30s? Because he has a kid.
He's in his late 20s, early 30s. Like very late. I think he's probably around 30 years old at this time.
Well, that's about the time that if he was going through all this stuff, that he would start showing mental illness, to be fair. That's about the time.
Joey, your goddamn magic did it again.
Sometimes.
This decay of character, this growth of violent madness and paranoid delusion in Ronald's personality will obviously play a role, not only the horrific murder he'll commit, but also mark a pivotal turning point in the history of England's laws around mental health and criminal responsibility. Tracking the descent of somebody into insanity before they murder somebody. Like, that's what's happening. They are becoming highly, highly addicted to morphine while going literally, clinically documented, insane before killing somebody. There's uncomfortable shit with that, right?
Yep.
And actually, while we're pulling this out, I have to admit, Ronald True has left me wrestling with some bigger questions. I'm not going to get into them right now, but if you're interested in why I decided to still make certain jokes about him, stick around past the closing music of this episode for my 2 cents. I want you to know I am completely open to changing my opinion, and I would love to hear yours. It's just what I've been tackling, reading through this, writing a script. I'm always down to change. All that shit out of the way, back to the story. After being released from rehab in 1921, Ronald and his wife were living together in Portsmouth, England, about 73 miles southwest of London.
Well, in England, they say it differently than we have a Portsmouth as well in North Carolina. We say Portsmouth.
Portsmouth. Like
Portsmouth. I'm trying to say it in a British accent.
It's Portsmouth. That's what
Portsmouth. That's how it's spelled, yeah.
Look, man, I didn't write English grammar laws. They did. They should pronounce it phonetically. That's their punishment.
Yes.
Back to the story. After being released from rehab in 1921, Ronald and his wife were living in Portsmouth, England, about 73 miles southwest of London. During that time there, he developed a brand new and interesting hobby. Staying Ronald true to himself, he had a massive ego to maintain, and he did it by becoming a misdemeanor mastermind. That's right, J-Cat. It's crime time.
It's crime time.
Ronald became a kleptomaniac and started shoplifting from every stall, stand, and store that he and Francis would stop at when they went into town. What he took was always something petty, paltry, or frankly, made no sense at all. Then, on the way home, he would pull it out and brag about whatever the hell random shit it was to his often unamused and perpetually confused wife.
You doing all right over there, Sugar Bud? Fantastic. Forgot to ask, did you get those apples I really like?
Yeah, the new Fiji.
Fascinating. Now, hate to bring it to you like this with such a little fanfare, but might have solved our little bedtime problem.
Our what?
I'll give you a hint. We no longer have to live in fear of toads licking our feet at night.
What?
Lift up the cover at the back, check it out. Okay? Yeah, give it a look-see.
What am I looking at exactly?
You see, just before we left, when the shopkeeper wasn't looking, I snagged 3 bread ties, 2 floorboards, and of course, the pump to the toilet in the employees' restroom.
As one would, as a kleptomaniac would. He's just adding this into his bag of tricks now, I guess, as what's going next into how to surprise your wife in the worst way possible. I now also am not just addicted to morphine. I am now a kleptomaniac. So what, they say surprise your significant other. Always be surprising each other, and I feel like it's close to Valentine's week. He's doing his best.
He's doing his best. And you know what? The best way to get rid of an addiction is to develop a stronger, more crippling addiction. And there's one thing that he's got going for him, which is that he's always true to the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, they always say get hobbies. That's how you help cure your addiction. You just have hobbies. And now his hobby is stealing random things. So good hobby.
In all my unofficial capacity, Ronald True, 100% textbook, has schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
If he ain't got schizophrenia, he invented its second cousin or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that this is kind of a holdover of his struggle between the world, his entitlement, how he's reflected, and honestly, this process of insanity is him starting to hate himself because he's starting to realize it, but not able to fully comprehend it.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. But while that skit sounds made up, because it was, it's actually not that far off from the types of conversations he had with Francis when they were leaving places and he had just shoplifted. Usually showed her something like a bookmark or a pen and would say something like, and I'm quoting from the book,
I'm truly one cunning dog.
just
Check it out, baby. Don't mean to make y'all hot and bothered, but got another one for you.
He's just stealing things of no consequence, but to him, they're consequence. They're adding to this whole.
So much of his life has just been him unable to actually make an impact on the world when the world's just been thirst trapping him for it. Just everything's been there for him to participate at some high esteemed level, to have status, to have everything's been ready for him to just press the red button, Ronald. Just that's all you got to do. Just press it once in your life and everybody will applaud you. And he's like,
the what now? No, sorry, I was looking at this green button over here that I sat on.
And they're like, no, that's the one you're not supposed.
Oh, shit. Well, why'd you make it green?
And they're like, it's not green, it's Fiji apple. And he's like,
never had one of those before. I'm going to try them someday.
But everybody around him who has set him up with everything is they basically accepted the fact they're like he fucking can't. We've tried,
Yeah.
nothing clicks with this dude. But god damn it, the whole time he's had the ego of like, oh yeah, bored of that. And they're like, I just invented it. He's like, I think I thought of that when I was like 6, but he was born already bored of the world. Like he'd already conquered it, you know?
Yeah.
And now reality's starting to conquer him. And he's becoming trapped in it. It's kind of pretty fucking dark.
Yeah. Everything that he's doing is like unintended consequences. Like he's gaining notoriety for the things that are unintended. Like basically they're probably creating whole new ways of like making sure somebody is an actual trainer and not a crash test pilot killing people before they hire them. So there's probably like things that because of his actions and because of his things that are being built up behind him, and like you said, like he inspires a whole legal part of a system, you know, in the end, in his legal case. So it's like these unintended consequences he's inspiring in the opposite way. Like you're saying, like he's trying to, they're telling him to press the red button, he's looking behind about, but what about that green button, Fiji apple button, and he's pressing that button. Those are the unintended consequences of the things that he's doing, you know?
Yeah. And like, dude, at these spots and like these positions and shit that he literally just gets off a boat and it's his, because that happened so many times. Dude, if he just literally didn't do anything, could have retired. You know, like it's been like, yeah, you're good. You know, but like that's where I think so much of his like ego just drives him. This entitlement, this ego, this I'm better than you kind of thing. Where like he's a dick. He's a fucking dick. But there is something sad about these little acts of like the kleptomania and shit like that, where it's just he hasn't lost the world, but the world has lost him. And in the process, he's losing grip on the world. Like it's like multiple layers of shit going on with that. And it comes out in these little moments of like, check out this bread tie, you know, like, don't worry, baby. And it's, yes, he's going crazy, but it's also a reflection of the words, the impulses, the shit that's already deep down somewhere, right?
Yeah. It's his grasp for control.
Yeah.
Like everything in his life, he never really had control over because pretty much everybody was sending him everywhere. They're like, now you're going here, now you're going here, now you're going here. You know, even the British Air Force was like, get out of here, go somewhere else, you know? And like, so at very small times in his life, did he probably feel like he had real control over his maybe even his actions in some of them, because maybe he felt like at some points that he was just either too good because he'd been built up like that in his childhood of being like, you know, you're going to this school, you're better than other people. And maybe even when he was in the colonies, when he went to India, they, you know, as we did talk, he felt like he was still among the common man, I guess, and not like overlording over people. Yeah. But he still had an ego at that point. So maybe he just felt like he had no choice. And these little kleptomaniac things and these little tendencies, and also adding in that he had a morphine addiction, which he got wildly out of control. So maybe these little things, maybe these little things are his like trying to get back into control of his life. The kleptomaniac is like, oh, I can steal it. That's control, you know,
having an impact on reality that he can define himself by.
That he's doing.
Well, besides the constant embarrassment Frances felt over her husband's new hobby, life seems to have more or less been stable-ish for the Trues until around September of that same year, 1921, when Ronald was arrested and appeared in court, not for his black market bread tie collection, but for forging a love letter in the form of a doctor's prescription to his first true love, morphine, which would again result in another 2-month episode of rehab and release. But this time, Frances was out of town while working under contract in a theater, so Ronald was released to the not-so-stoked care of his aunt, who, as she'll testify later in detail, was still disturbed 30-something years later by how much of a selfish jerk and asshole Ronald was as a child. She agreed to take care of him through the holidays and into the new year. It was Christmas week, and Ronald had spent it at his mom's house with his aunt. The night was cold, presents were unwrapped, and dinner had long since been served. The two ladies sat by the fireplace discussing what there was left to do with Ronald True. His aunt told his mother about how he had said 3 different palm readers in Buenos Aires predicted his death would come by means of a sinister woman. His mother shared tales Ronald had told in rehab of the antics being carried out by the nefarious Ronald True, and how one time her son wrote out the title of a mining claim in Mexico using a German's blood. It shouldn't be surprising that during this chat, Ronald appeared downstairs, saying before they could get a word out, quote,
I have some business to transact in Bedford.
then left.
His ears were burning, for sure.
God damn it, I gotta get in the cold.
He is the first one to invent earmuffs.
This is great. This doesn't constrict my head at all. You guys should try this. It's like the G-string of hats. It's pretty cool.
So he's just doing all this random stuff now, and I can honestly imagine that he's like he dropped the present off for his aunt and his mom, and they open it and they're just like, oh, another bookmark and bread ties.
Didn't mean to brag about how I got them, but there were risks involved.
Do you have the...
I'm gonna hide that if the constables come over. I'm just...
Do you have the receipt for that? I was...
Yeah, they didn't get it from me.
Yeah.
But you did.
Do you have the receipt for that? I was...
Stole that too. Here you go.
Oh, wow. I just wanted to see, where it's from, But where's... I mean, Bedford. Like, what's the...
That's the... Do you remember he went to the Bedford school?
He's going back to school?
That area of where he went to basically middle school and high. All this shit connects. All of it connects, bud. But thank you for bringing that up or for asking that. Yeah. Because I definitely did get later in and I was like, God damn, Bedford's popular. And then I was like, oh, duh, it's the fucking school that he went to. This makes sense in the familial context of like, I'm going out to Bedford. And it's just like, yeah, he spent like 9 years of his life there. He's going to have connections, like it's basically kind of like his old hometown, but not really. It's just where he went to high school,
He's going to his old stomping grounds, what they used to say, He's
exactly. Yeah, it's an excellent way to put it.
He's going back to be like, that's that bar I used to go out to, That's that, that's where I stole all those bread ties, That was where I was learning. It's where I was going to get better at stealing, and I did a keg stand over there.
Remember that's where that one time that guy offered me morphine and I said drugs are for losers? How we've grown.
How we've grown. It's the same guy.
How we've grown.
It's just drooling.
Like, bro, I'm that guy. I just sold that to you. He's like,
yeah.
I thought you were a tree.
Yeah, he's just picturing other people. Wait a second.
Yeah.
Are you Ronald True?
Oh my God, you're Ronald Tree. Oh my God, I always knew I had a brother. Ronald Tree, how you doing? Oh, careful. You almost falled. No, but seriously, where are your leaves? You're like just out here in public. It's embarrassing for the family. You need to put something on.
Yeah, you're naked.
You said you will later. How many months? Well, that's a lot of leaves to cover. Okay, I'll allow it. Gonna have to invent earmuffs for trees. Hold on. I'll be back.
Yeah, I'll be back. Yeah. He's just literally talking to a tree.
We're going to fly them in over the canopies.
Yeah. He's just talking to a tree.
And that's when Ronald True accidentally invented Agent Orange.
A man ahead of his time.
He's the antithesis of Saruriko Kyuchi, and I love that.
Yeah, he's just inventing all the bad things. The stuff that doesn't help.
Kyuchi just like modestly had so many influences across the world. He's just a happy-go-lucky guy. Ronald True... Here's a fun thing, and I think it's the best way to understand the name True because it really is like a classic, like a Greek comedy, right? The thing about the truth is, it also defines everything that it's not. Ronald True is everything but his intention.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's truly a fucking comedy in that sense, in the classic
and
fucking
that name.
sense of the word. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw that. the new celebrity death match actually was going to have Tsureki Kyuchi versus Ronald True in a ladders and tables match.
Oh, Ronald True killed Tsureki Kyuchi. Oh, but that did not affect him. He is back again. Should have saw that one coming. Yeah, you should have, Dan. Didn't you read the fucking bio? No, I didn't. Anyways, now moving on. Oh, Ronald True, he's in a plane. He's
everybody, it's a tragedy. Yeah, no, the medical staff is coming in. Tsuruko's coming up. He's giving him last rites of death.
Oh, but he's getting up again. He said, give me that morphine. I am in. Who is going to go down? Honestly, I don't know.
Never-ending battle. It was funny because right before he died, Ronald True, or right before he went to court, Ronald True was actually sent over to Japan, and he was teaching them how to fly. They took it wrong, as it was like, are we supposed to crash the planes into stuff?
Oh, Joey, no. No.
He
Aw, but
defined
that was good.
everything he was not.
That's fucking golden. Ronald True gets sent to Japan as an undercover agent as a flight instructor.
Teaches.
Churchill's like, I know just the guy.
Yeah.
I went to school with them.
Accidentally shows them the art of crashing planes.
All right, so we're going to land on the deck. Oh my God, he took down the ship. Y'all, we need to do that.
I love it.
Honestly, we should do. That'd be a fun one. We should do an episode about like the brainwashing and the the cult mentality that was built up around kamikaze pilots.
Oh yeah, that would be nuts.
He never went to Bedford. Instead, he headed straight to London, where, other than meeting up with Francis at the end of January, not a whole lot is known in terms of what the hell he was doing for the rest of January. But what can be stated as a matter of fact, when records pick back up later, is that he was living a somewhat affluent, vagrant lifestyle in the West End, staying at and scamming his way through various swanky hotels and inns, all the while making a name for himself among the movers and shakers of London, who all knew him as Major True. He was a party guy, well-dressed, boisterous, seen at every hip restaurant, club, and social event in town. Again, similar to his time in New York, he is using the one Ronald True talent he actually had, being able to quickly move through a social scene, build reputation, and make connections. He went full-on trust fund travel influencer.
Yeah. He's always working his way through it. But I don't know if you ever watched that TV show. It's a documentary about Anna Delvey. He is literally Anna Sorokin was her actual name. But she pretended to be like a German heiress and made basically was in New York and just got her way through it and almost got a $5 million loan to build a art thing in it, which is again the greatest
start poor?
Fake it till you make it.
Did she start poor? Okay, I have
the difference. Yeah, he started poor.
I got respect for those cons. That shit.
I do too.
I'm here for that.
Well, he also in these rooms, the reason why he's so good at it and why he's portrayed as good at it is because while he was in the military, they all knew him and they all knew his exploits were bullshit. So it's besides the top brass at the point, but people who are with him day to day are just this guy's bullshit. But the people that are upper crust, the social elite, I guess at this point, he could lie and they probably wouldn't know the difference because he could say he was on the battlefield and they're just oh, cool, cool. Oh, you were on the battlefield. Tell us.
Oh, yeah. He learned how to be a better con man in the uniform of Major True in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's doing it in London. But unlike his time in New York, where he was conning his way through society, going after girls and new careers, this time he was certified as a violent schizophrenic with a crippling morphine addiction, extreme paranoia, and a score to settle with the man who had been ruining his life, Ronald True. He still partied, though.
Yeah.
After being missing from his family for more than a month, his wife managed to contact him, and they met up at the end of January in London. He was affectionate, appeared happy, and seemed to be doing well. Confident as ever, he convinced her, within reason, that he was working with a, quote, Mr. Davenport to pursue an exciting job opportunity, and there was nothing to worry about. Pressed for more details, he literally pulled one of those, when you look at the time, moves, and said he had to hurry back to Bedford, gave her a kiss and a party out before departing. She left, feeling cautiously reassured, which, looking back now, makes me think she wasn't there for the speech he gave at the Tarquin Mines. True had to do this, though. He had to protect his family, not from himself, but from the man he was finally going to settle the score with, the other Ronald True. And to do it, he had to be like a lone wolf, stalking another lone wolf who had taken out a loan in the first lone wolf's name. But solo hunting a doppelganger is fucking boring, and True would probably break out in hives if he didn't have someone to brag to. Basically, what I'm saying is, every hero needs a sidekick, and Ronald True was no exception. Luckily, destiny heard his call, and a week later would deliver to him everything but a bow tie on, a Robin to his Batman, forming a team ready to change the world as the most mediocre dynamic duo in history. Socializing with a group of friends, a portly, average-looking fellow approached and was introduced to Major True. His name, Mr. James Armstrong. Currently between jobs, had recently been laid off. He was single, broke, and lived at home with his mom.
No catch.
He had all the time in the world and nothing to do, while Major True had all the money and a mission on his mind. Jokes aside, Armstrong was the perfect wingman, and within days of meeting, the two became inseparable, spending sunup till last call, hanging out at the finest restaurants, clubs, and bars that London had to offer. This friendship brings up an important point. Everyone knew immediately that Ronald True was a lunatic. Most folks, including Armstrong, considered him, quote, crazy but harmless, with Armstrong further defending this view in court later by saying that True's over-the-top stories made him entertaining and fun to be around as he paid for them to take whatever pleasures they wanted from the city's potential. And that's why Armstrong said, quote, sure, how much will you give me for it? When True asked to buy his handgun. Now, the reason he needed it, and I am quoting directly from testimony, quote,
I'm now doing civil flying and make frequent trips to the continent, often with valuable cargoes. But this present employment comes with some risk. There's always a chance that I'll have to make a forced landing in a lonely and dangerous neighborhood, and therefore, I'd be glad to buy your automatic pistol.
End quote. That is...
Yeah.
Yes.
That's...
Lonely and dangerous neighborhoods in Europe. First off, a lonely neighborhood?
Yeah, he didn't make it. He's just trying to come up with reasons of why. He was being very British, I feel like.
A rural region of the continent, which I just love that was slang for the rest of Europe besides England. The continent, that one over there. Losers.
It was becoming anything but that, which is the kind of the funny thing.
Well, when asked if he saw any warning signs that may have inspired hesitation to sell True the gun, he said he did notice, quote, he had a preference for going about hatless, end quote, which for the love of God gets mentioned by almost everyone at some point in this fucking
That is the
book.
craziest thing that he's ever done. He just goes hatless. And I guess that not having a hat at this time was like not wearing any pants anywhere. You know, it's just like, oh my God, he's hatless?
I don't even think they would have even noticed you didn't have pants on if you didn't have a hat on.
If he didn't have a hat, yeah.
My eyes go top to bottom. This makes no sense. Blasphemy.
Nobody ever looks at your shoes. So he was probably just like, probably wore the fanciest shoes. And then they were just like, but he doesn't have a hat.
Yes. So do you wear shoes with a lot of hats? Yeah, a hat is just head shoes. So with all fairness, maybe he was just too taken back by True's hatless head to notice the first thing True did. And by first, I mean before Armstrong even had time to fold the cash he was given. True started filing off the heads of the bullets he gave him with the gun, which is what you can do at home to make bullets more lethal. So they'll expand wider on impact with a body, causing more damage when they enter and start knocking all around. Yeah. Which is going to do more damage going through a needle or a sledgehammer that's just bouncing around like a ping pong ball. Like, it's basically what that means. It's for very close, like point blank range, shooting somebody and making sure that it's the most painful internal issues possible.
To think about that too, as he was getting the bullets and he's just sitting there watching him. So he's just like looking at his watch, like as he's like filing off, he's like, Can we just go drink some more? And he's like, no, I got to finish this before we go somewhere.
I mean, honestly, you might have been on something. Like, I think like 90% of Major True's charm was folks were literally hypnotized by him having a top of a head that was uncovered. I mean, that was like walking around with titties out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it was just like, I can't perform basic functions these days, which is another reason why I support Topless for Everyone Act, a new bill that I just made up, which I feel like Trump would sign if it went in front of him. So everybody, let's get behind this. Let's get in front of this. And most importantly, let's get on top.
I second this motion.
Moving on. So Armstrong gives him the gun. It's pretty fucking customary that when you buy a gun, even from like a store or whatever, you know, like the registered ways, you get a small box of ammunition with it. I mean, it's kind of weird not to, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And if you don't, you at least buy it at the point is, gave him all the ammunition with it and just like immediately he's like, and just starts filing off the heads, something that I'm assuming around the time of World War I, a lot of folks in culture was very aware of how to kill people at close range.
Oh, yeah.
This was common knowledge. Whatever. So, in all fairness, that might have been niche knowledge. And maybe Armstrong just didn't know that. Or maybe he was just getting too excited about the business opportunity True was starting to tell him about while filing the bullets he was going to put into the gun. It was just a little plan he'd been thinking of where they could form a secret society of hitmen. Quote,
what if we start a secret society of enterprising spirits who would undertake to put away anybody that anybody else found objectionable at a rate of a bob a knob?
End quote. A bob a knob, translated from old-timey limey, means a shilling to fuck someone up or a shilling to kill somebody. So cheap as fuck will kill anybody. Yeah. He's sanding off the head of bullets to make them more lethal, talking about just going out and killing anybody for anybody as cheap as possible. Ronald True is basically acting like a 7-year-old who just found a foam sword. He's just like, what if I started fighting crime? Yeah. And parents who give their kids too many chores. Yeah. The delusion is like coming out.
Yeah.
Armstrong, unfazed, baby, staying true.
It's literally, he's just like, you know what? Yeah, I like him. He's very eccentric. But you know what I want to say, though? Everybody enjoys watching the plane go down, except for the people on it. So he's trying to act like he's this fly on the wall. He's double dutying it. He's acting like a fly on the wall, and he's watching this plane slowly descend. He doesn't care.
He's just talking to his grandkids like, you have no idea what we used to have to do to watch reality TV.
Yeah. The only thing, he had to create it. The only thing that he didn't even have to create it. He was just watching it like from the.
I was the GoPro.
Yeah, he literally was. He's the video guy in the Instagram reels. He really is. He's just taping this, being like, no, you should do this. And like egging him on too. Because he's like, what do you need? What do you need? Here's a gun. You know, like, oh, you need a gun? Cool, I got you, bud. Just pay me.
Gun?
And so the guy's is giving him money, and he's like, okay, great, cool. I'm here for it. Whatever you want.
Yeah. So with this henchman sidekick, Armstrong, willing and oblivious, True, with a loaded gun at the ready, the two wasted no time making a name for themselves around the city as they partied harder and club hopped around London like it was a bachelor party in Las Vegas every single night, while dining at the finest restaurants and blowing through money during the day. Within a week being introduced, they were already gaining guest access to exclusive, members-only clubs around London's hip West End. But February the 8th, True's mission to kill his doppelganger became unexpectedly derailed while partying at a place called Murray's Dance and Supper Club.
Mm-hmm.
It was here he met a woman who soon regretted going out that night. Her name was Mrs. Wilson, a club member who, after being introduced to the two men, immediately realized something was seriously wrong with Major True, and after she finally was able to look away from his hatless head, she also saw that he had been staring at her with the same gaze multiple people across multiple continents describe as the eyes of a lunatic. He looked like a lion hunting a gazelle, or a cat, a laser pointer. Either one. Same intensity.
Yeah.
Same thing. True had become hyper-fixated on Mrs. Wilson, who, after safely leaving that night, ran into him at Murray's again the following evening. Keep in mind, this is a private club. He was a non-member. She had probably thought it was safer to be there than most other places.
Oh, yeah. And if he's not a member, then, and she hadn't seen him there before, hadn't been introduced to him, there's a highly likely chance that he's probably not going to be there every night. He's going to be going to a different place. So it's like...
Exactly.
Yeah, it tracks that she's just like, oh, I'll go back because at least here, yeah, you're right, I'm protected. You know, this is my club.
Yeah, I know like 40 people here. At home, I'm alone. Where am I going to feel safer?
Yeah.
But somehow he was back, and this time he quickly isolated her, doing that douchebag body language thing people do in loud clubs, you know, where like they start off with small talk, but then quickly step between the person and the group of friends that they were with.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know.
Yeah, trying to
There's no
isolate.
name for that, but it's like, you can't just say like isolate them, but it's like, there's like a very specific move. I've seen it where it's just like at concerts or like at clubs or whatever with like people that I'm like dating, and like somebody comes up and like intentionally splits between us and starts being like, hey, are you here with anybody? And it's like, yeah, you just, oh, well, what? I can't hear you anyways. Hey, you're really cute. Like that kind of shit.
Yeah.
You know? That's what he did, right?
Yeah.
And he's coming with that New York energy, so he's got some like hip shit the Europeans can't even comprehend.
Yeah.
Anyways, True soon got Mrs. Wilson completely separated from her friends and sitting, trapped by True, on the inside seat of a booth.
Ew, the worst.
Once there, he proceeded to not shut the fuck up about himself for hours, with the exception of occasionally zoning out and staring off into space, then randomly snapping back to reality and picking back up where he left off. That shit is creepy.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, and then on Tuesday I was gonna 10-second pause. Go down to the new store that they built up, and it's just like like you are watching somebody snap in and out of reality while they're in the middle of trying to intimidate. Dude, I don't know. This is...
She's desperately trying to make eye contact with anybody walking by, being like, you know, like, help somebody. I like need you to like help me out of this situation.
Empty? I'll take that.
Yeah.
Waiter!
She starts working there.
Pick this
No,
up.
she starts like working there. She's like, hold on, I gotta clean this table. You know, like,
dude,
desperately trying to get away.
Yeah, dude, this is, these are like dark corners of old clubs.
Yeah.
In fucking London. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like, she's isolated.
Yeah.
She is trapped. This is everything that I'm sure she grew up learning to be worried about. And that, sadly, people are still being, raised to worry about around shit. But eventually, and probably to trick him into letting her out, she asked if they could go dance together. Right? Good move.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Solid.
Smart.
Should satisfy all of his, egos in trapping her. True replied,
"Can't dance due to my hip injury."
And then pulled out a gun and said,
"If I ever see you dance with somebody else, I'll kill you."
Then he laughed and put it away, trying to pass it off as just dark humor. What's even more fucked up about this whole situation is that True had been pulling his gun out and threatening almost everyone he talked to since the day he bought it. Quote, "It is worth noting at this point that all of True's male acquaintances, even those who regarded him as quite mad, none saw in his conduct anything sinister. Even his habit of carrying a loaded revolver does not seem to have been taken seriously by men. But with women, the case was different." End quote. Same shit that went on with Armstrong, where it's just kind of like, I don't see nothing wrong with it. Yeah, I mean, he's crazy, but whatever. Like,
yes, it's fine. It's fine.
Everybody was giving this dude a fucking pass, which, fuck if that's not the story of his life.
But I will say, in a sense, and why she probably like still went to the corner and talked to him is because I'm gonna say this in very, very loose quotes. He is a war hero, in quotations. He's a major. And his story's probably centered around this. I would say still even in these clubs, because if he's getting around this, they probably don't know that he didn't serve, especially the civilians that might be there. And so I would imagine that he's regaling.
Well, no, I mean, at this time, honestly, like, might sound weird, but like, especially with like a World War, veterans were a dime a dozen. Everybody was a fucking veteran. Like,
Yeah, but not a major, because he was an officer, and there wasn't a whole lot of officers around. Maybe in this club, but
I don't think his status had anything to do with it. I've seen dudes do this exact same shit.
Yeah, no, I get that.
It's like, where you going, sweetheart? When they try to walk, I'm sorry, excuse me. No, don't worry. No, hey, come on, sit down. Just like, my friends are over there. No, it's okay. And just push a little bit harder, but not too, like, that really fucking douchebag vulture.
Yeah. No, he's definitely doing that. For sure.
I don't see any of the shit as willing on her part.
No, I mean that, like, because he was a World War hero in this, and I put that in quotations, I feel like...
he has to be okay-ish somehow, somewhere?
He has to be, he has to have some kind of, like, redeeming qualities, or that maybe she felt like he might have shell shock, too. Because back then they didn't know, especially
everybody fucking
especially in the club when he's talking. And I'm not saying that she was okay with it, but I'm saying that maybe she's in her mind, she's thinking, okay, this guy, like, he's fucking probably dangerous, and I can tell because he's got that lunatic stare.
90% of the men I see have killed other men.
Yeah, and they probably all have that long distance stare, that 1,000-mile stare. So I don't think that she's accepting of it, but I think that there still are parts of the society that are accepting of it.
There's nuances.
Yeah. That maybe got her.
You're not dating a man unless he's killed like 20 Krauts, basically.
Exactly.
Like, it was just like, that's just because guess what? He fucking died if he didn't.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Kill or be killed.
Well, after threatening to kill Mrs. Wilson, True proceeds to tell her the real reason he has the gun, saying, I'm only lightly paraphrasing here, quote,
"Sorry to scare you like that. It was just a joke. I actually have this thing for protection, you see. lately. There's been a lunatic running around the West End. He's dangerous as hell. Known criminal who, among many other things, has been forging checks everywhere I go. The bastard, he's armed too, has a gun just like this and keeps threatening random people. Anyways, unlike that asshole, I went to Scotland Yard, explained the situation, and got permission to carry this, and, if fate will have it, deal with him once and for all.
What's his name?
Oh, his name? Ronald True.
End quote.
And she's just like, "Oh, okay, I gotta go. It's time." Yeah.
Bro, can you put yourself into her experience where she's like, no, baby, just sit down over here. And you're like, what the fuck? And he's like, what? If you dance with me, I'll fucking kill you. And it's just like, oh, okay, what the fuck? And he's like, no,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you like that. No, but I actually have permission. I have permission from Scotland Yard. To go back to what you're saying about, like, he's a major and this and that, it's like, okay, maybe I'm not as threatened as I thought I would. Yeah, no, son, da-da-da-da-da. It's this crazy. There's this guy out there. He's fucking insane. Da-da-da-da-da-da. And you're like, okay, all right. What's his name? Maybe I've heard of him. Oh, it's my name. Anyways, I'm looking for him. Like the
yeah,
fucking
that's where you're just like, oh, I'm not equipped. Yeah, she's just like, I am not equipped to handle this. I gotta go.
I'm assuming there weren't subtitles in the conversation. She was just hearing him say Ronald True, but in his fucking mind, he was spelling it T-R-E-W. He's like, yeah, Ronald True. And she's like,
your name. As you're waving this pistol that you also said was
just
similar,
like this.
Was
going
just
around.
Like this. Yeah.
Bro, again, this goes to he's slipping into
So
madness.
scary.
We have like a minute for minute breakdown of like as his shit deteriorates, and it's like he is explaining himself. This is why I've been so deep in this case, where I'm just kind of like, whoa, this is a deep dive into the actual psychology, like the moment experience.
Yeah, rarely do we get to ever see the actual descent into where, like, you probably can see some of the breaking points of this guy's, like, life.
Yeah.
And outside people being able to testify that I can see exactly when he broke, or when his mental capacity kept descending into where it's like, oh, shit, he is going to kill somebody. He's going to do something crazy. And, like...
Yeah. And it's this kind of like moment to moment, like all these little things adding up. That was enough to change the actual legal system around sanity and responsibility and accountability. It was like, damn, that's like pretty fucking well documented. That's a pretty good case, like maybe our law didn't have these kind of references to it, like it's boom,
Yep.
I mean, you can read all the very dry, like, and then you might experience this, but not these interactions of as it develops.
Yeah.
This
point blank,
Yeah. Excellent way to put it. Yeah, the situation's absolutely fucking horrifying for somebody like Mrs. Wilson. Well, the next day, Ronald True showed up at Mrs. Wilson's house and demanded she spend the evening with him. When she attempted to politely decline, I have a headache, I can go out, I have something, whatever, he pulled his gun out and threatened to kill her. Jokingly, of course. This became a new daily routine, along with calling her house constantly, every single day. And every single evening, he would show up and force her to go with him to Murray's, where she'd be isolated from everyone, while he fantasized about how he's going to kill someone, or how he's going to kill Ronald True. In fact, the only time he wasn't talking about killing the other Ronald True was when he was making fucked up jokes, like when he said,
I'd really love to meet your husband someday, so I can kill him.
That's not fun.
I'm joking, of course, but no, for real, I'm gonna kill somebody.
For 8 days, this terror kept up until finally, February 16th, Ronald suddenly didn't call. Didn't show up. he actually, apparently, something else to do.
Huh.
He went off to meet his wife, who made a trip into town to check on him.
Good call.
Well, unlike the last time, when he was kind, happy, and affectionate, this time, he was hostile, threatening, speaking erratically, and showing her a gun in between tears. And the little she could gather between his disjointed statements, the business deal with Mr. Davenport had fallen through. True was ruined. Unfortunately, he was going to have to leave her.
Yeah.
Francis left their encounter heartbroken, confused, and scared. Her husband was now past the point of reason, loose on the streets of London and carrying a loaded gun. And that's where we'll pick back up next week with Ronald True Part 3.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, just surprise me with another part.
I did it, motherfucker. Now, this shit's fascinating, and
It seems like there's a lot more.
it's like, how do you pick your favorite detail?
Yeah. You're completing the trilogy, so we're about to get into the Dark
trilogy.
Knight Rises. It's the trilogy.
It's
That
the
should be the name of the third
trilogy.
one. That's the name of the third one. Ronald True. The trilogy ends. Uh-huh.
Well, Joey, as promised up top, and I know they're still here. You know why I know they're still here? Because they're badass, hardcore motherfuckers. And we fucks with them. You know where we fucks with them? We fucks with them on Patreon. Patreon.com/BlackCatReport. That's where you can find all these motherfucking all-stars. Such as Jaden, Jackie, Ave, Lucas, Yellow Bear, Tim, Ian, Rochelle, Dwayne, AK. Wait for the beat. Snatch Twat, Max, Morgan, Dragon Paw from the Starblood Chronicles podcast, Miller's Monsters, Alyssa, Bree, Gavin, leader of the Chicken Cult, James, Michael Extreme. Also, shout out to you. You followed us in multiple spots. I noticed in your email, which I won't share on air, that the word podcast was in it. I haven't had a chance to check it out, but I've noticed, and I'm going to. Excited about that. Kristen from the Paranorm Girl podcast. And last, but in no goddamn motherfucking way least, as a matter of fact, the most member of the sexiest producer tier, Hoppy Kitty. Shout out to y'all. Y'all make this possible. We were impossible before. Y'all have helped make this
Possible.
possible.
Truly. Yeah. Well, we appreciate all you true fans out there. Thank you guys so much for listening to part 2 of Ronald True. And I will honestly say, Gil surprised me because I didn't know there was going to be a part 3. So he hopefully surprised you too. So keep an eye on Patreon. Basically just follow us for free. You get all the updates of what we're doing because we're doing so much stuff. We can't wait. We're ready. We're ready for you. Just come on there and you'll get to see all this cool stuff.
We're sluts for open communication. That's what we're trying to say.
Yes. We love emails. Literally just got
We
an
will
email from
spread
one of our...
our lips for
Yep.
a convo with you.
Yes, it's true. And we even got a great email with a bunch of documentaries for me to watch. So thank you, Max, for sending that over. I am just now responding to it, and it'll be a long while before I can make it through that freaking list of all that stuff you sent over. So thank you.
Dude, Max delivered. Y'all are the shit.
You guys are the best.
Stick around past the music, which technically we're past, but I'll probably loop it in editing and make this work. We love you all.
We love
Bye.
you. Bye.
This is something that I wrote in middle of the episode, or you might remember this from the middle of the episode, read this line, and while I'm pulling us out of the story for a second, I want to point out a question and reasoning I struggle with. Is it okay to make fun of Ronald when this is the eventual reality of his mental health and struggle with addiction? In Ronald's case, I say yes. But the guardrails for jokes should be placed around the family who have a very real, very sad situation involving a loved one they just want the best for. At this point in the story, Ronald has already displayed nearly all the textbook signs of schizophrenia, with more to come later. Delusions, false and irrational beliefs such as being harmed or targeted despite evidence to the contrary, or possessing exceptional qualities, or fame. Disorganized speech and thinking. It can be hard for people with schizophrenia to talk to other people. The answers people with schizophrenia give to questions may not be related to what's being asked, and started popping up at the right age. He's 31 at this point in the story, say right after one of the rehab stints. So he was about 31 at the time. In men, schizophrenia, the symptoms of it usually start in the late teens to early 20s, which is when he graduated from Bedford until he crashed his third plane. So it was that timeline, right? So why yes? Well, I don't think at all, from anything that I could read with my unofficially educated mind, but try to comprehend, I don't think that he was schizophrenic when he was 5 and torturing small animals, or when he was 14 and his aunt told him his mother had become incredibly ill and might die, to which Ronald responded, quote, "Oh, well, if she dies, all their property will be mine, and I'll give you her 2 best rings straight away. And honestly, you can have anything you like of her things and jewelry," end quote. Remember how I mentioned in the story how his aunt was kind of like triggered by having to deal, because this was him his whole childhood. My point being, he was an asshole before schizophrenia set in. And while mental illness can most definitely affect a person's behavior, the person themselves is not their mental illness. I've had multiple friends with varying degrees of BPD, bipolar disorder, and schizophrenia. I've been there when they couldn't afford medication to help manage their symptoms. It's not funny in reality, but in hindsight, while there were moments, things definitely got out of hand, and there were very real risks of injury to themselves and to others. The person having the episode was always there. They were always a good person. No sane person becomes a serial killer or murders in cold blood, but 99% of people with mental illness don't kill or murder. I think those people are generally assholes, flavored later in life with mental illness that removes the cuffs from their deeper personality. Where is this line at? I think that in Ronald True's case, he showed his true colors. He was a fucking douchebag before the illness. The illness exaggerated it. It amplified it. He just became more of himself in so many ways. That's my opinion. That's why I think it's okay. But I'm open to changing my thoughts and hearing questions. Shoot us an email. contact@blackcat.report. Thank y'all for sticking around. This is honestly, Ronald True. He's truly got me thinking. So, stay hard. Stay true. People with Lady Wiggle Bits.
Stay hydrated.
Stay wet.
Stay hydrated.
J&G out.
Bye.